Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm live over here again. Today, let me introduce to you Mr. Manish Gupta, a life coach from Chennai. He's the founder for Buddhi World, an organization that was started in 2011 with the main focus being on helping people improve their emotional and social competencies to help them bring more emotional stability, peace, and happiness in their lives. He is a graduate in commerce from University of Madras. Today, he will be telling us the importance of learning to be emotionally intelligent in a student's life during pandemic. Let's welcome Mr. Manish Gupta. Good morning, Manish.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you? How are you?
Good, Reenaji. How are you?
I'm good. So let's begin with it.
Yes.
Uh,
Before we begin, as usual, I would like to, like to remember everyone and anyone, especially God first. We would start from there.
very
Gratitude
important.
for another day, for another wonderful day in our lives, and gratitude to you again for having me on this show, and
Thank you so
gratitude to all those people in in my life and in our lives who bless us every single day, every single minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Manish, my usual question. What you are a commerce graduate, right? What
Yes.
triggered in your mind that you shifted from commerce to emotional intelligence and helping out people? You could have been a renowned chartered accountant. You could have been anything.
Right. So all good things in life actually happen by accident. So this was another accident.
Okay.
We had a lot of space in the previous house where we were staying, and it was a large independent house, and we had a big lawn. And that time, our son was 10 years old. A lot of his friends used to come home because that was one place where you could cycle, you could play cricket, you could do whatever you want. And when they used to come home, many a times my wife and myself used to sit out and just observe. We used to sit out and observe कि भाई किसी को चोट नहीं लग जाए, nobody should get hurt, and they should play safe, etc. But what happened was we started hearing a lot of interesting conversations. There were a couple of boys there whose parents were not doing too well, and then we realized how they began, because of peer pressure, they started putting pressure on the parents. Like one month, one of them bought a cricket kit for 12,000. This was in 2010, and 12,000 is not small money. Then the
Yes.
same boy next month forced his parents to buy him a bicycle for 8,000. And then the next month he came up with two Nike t-shirts for 2,000 rupees that time. So we wondered what the hell is going on. We know that his parents are not doing very well. They're not very well off. And in
Yeah.
spite of that, why is it that these little children are not able to understand? And then
Mhm.
my wife happened to ask him that, why don't you understand? I mean, why do you ask your parents to buy all this when you know they're tough times? And he said, no, auntie, everyone has it, so even I want it. So
Oh,
standard answer, peer pressure. And then we
yeah.
realized that if this issue is there in one house, it can probably be there in more houses. So we
Yes.
said, okay,
Definitely.
what can we do about it? And that's when we started reading, and then we realized it's all about emotions. And then we started reading about emotional intelligence, and that's how our journey began. In 2010, actually, the journey began. 1 year of reading, 1 year of talking to people, understanding children, understanding parents. And 2011, we decided to you know go professional. That's when it began in 2011. So this is how this started, by accident, purely by accident.
Great, great. God proposes and man disposes. God didn't
Absolutely.
want you
God
to go
proposes, man
into,
disposes.
yeah, God did not want you to go into the commerce stream. That's why He pushed you into
Right.
this.
Right.
Okay, now tell me, give us a brief insight, in fact, or a detailed one, whatever is suitable to you, about the EI. What is it all about?
Okay. First thing is, I like to ask you your perspective on EI, and then we'll give you our perspective.
Well, I think it is the most important thing a person should have because until and unless he's emotionally intelligent, emotionally strong, he cannot survive in this bad world. That is what I called it.
All right. So if you will agree with me, emotions can emotions can overwhelm reasoning. Many times there's
Exactly.
logic right in front of you, but if you get emotional, the entire logic gets thrown into the dustbin. I think, are you there? You lost her.
There.
Ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, I'm very much there.
I think I lost you. I lost
No,
you
no,
for a minute.
I'm very much there. I'm very much there.
What actually happens is that when people get emotional, all logic is thrown into the dustbin.
Exactly.
Everything goes to a toss. आप कितना भी सोच लो, कितना भी logical सोच लो, but then when it comes to emotions, you tend to take another decision altogether. And that's why it's extremely important that you learn how to control your emotions. Now, the $1 million question is people ask, how can someone be emotionally intelligent? I mean, can it happen? Of course, it can happen because emotions, if you can bring in a lot of IQ, if you can bring in a lot of IQ, and EQ is already, emotions are already there inside of you. So all that you actually need to do is learn how to control them, and there are ways of doing it. That's exactly how emotions can be controlled. Emotions can be put to good use, to the right use, and emotions can be used effectively in life. So yes, man.
I agree with it. And what role does it play in a student's life?
Okay, I'll first again just complete on emotional intelligence. Just that I lost you on screen again, and then I
No,
was
no,
wondering
no.
if you're
You
there or
can
not.
keep on, it's not that
All
I'm
right,
not there. I'm visible. I am
all
there.
right.
I just wanted you to be on the main screen.
So I'll just describe what is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is simply the ability to understand your own emotions as well as the ability to understand the emotions of others and then take decisions based on that understanding after that. So it's very important that you not only understand your own emotions, but you also understand the emotions of others as well. And that's exactly is what emotional intelligence all about. Yes, Reenaji.
Yeah. What role does it exactly play
Role in.
in a student's life?
All right. So there are a few things that I would like to ask you. I'd like to ask you first. Okay, how many children do you have?
I've got two kids.
You've got two kids. Now,
Yeah.
if I tell you that, if I tell you that, look, I met one of your children and I've seen kindness, I've seen courage, I've seen empathy. I found the kid to be resilient. I found him to be well mannered. I found in him leadership qualities. I found in him social skills. I found that he has the ability to fight back. I see that he has very less or no aggression. How would you feel? How would you feel? Would you feel proud
I
as
will
a mother?
definitely feel proud. I will definitely feel proud as a mother.
Exactly. So this is what emotional intelligence can do with students. This is what they can do. You see, most of the people, most of the top people that you see in the world today, they are all people. There are many people who are not very well read, not very well educated, but these are people who've been emotionally strong in life, and their emotional and social competencies are very, very, very well balanced, very much within their control, and that's the reason you find them towards success. These are the
Right.
people who know what to say, when to say, how to respond to a situation, what reply to give to someone, even if somebody is angry, how not to lose your cool, how to remain calm and composed, how to take the right decisions at the right time. All this can happen only and only if somebody learns to first understand their emotions and then learns to label their emotions. See, the greatest thing in emotional intelligence for a start is, first thing is knowing your own emotions. Very simply, because if you don't know your emotions, your own emotions, how are you going to understand the emotions of others?
Exactly.
It's like I asking you for 500 rupees and you have just 200 rupees in your purse. If you don't have 500, how can you give it to me? Very simple. If you don't understand your own emotions, how are you going to understand the emotions of others? So the first point is learn about your own emotions. What are your emotions? Which are your strong emotions? Which are your weak emotions? Do you get angry very quickly? Do you cry a lot? What happens when someone shouts at you? Do you break down? Do you go into a shell? Or do you just burst out? What exactly you do? How do you respond? How do you react? How are you able to take failures? What happens if you fall down? Are you able to stand back up again? Are you strong enough to stand back up? All these things matter very much. And this is what can be done in a student's life. Students need to be taught what is emotional intelligence, and this has to be done from a very young age. Especially now during the time of the pandemic, you're seeing many of even strong people. You've seen them biting the dust. You've seen strong people biting the dust. You've seen strong people falling down, and you've seen children children are actually struggling because they don't really know what to do other than sitting on gadgets, and then sitting on gadgets for too much time is, they then end up not being in a very good relationship with the family. The family is now at home finally, and this is the time for children to spend time with their families together, because it generally doesn't happen. When the pandemic is not there was not there, the schools were there, children used to go to schools, parents used to go to work, and hardly they got the time to spend with each other. This is the time when children should make use of that, improve their understanding in the family, improve their relationship with the family, and see what best how best they can improve on their bonding. This is very important, man.
Like, how do you think the schools can help the kids in EI?
Schools can do a great job. Actually, schools are doing a terrific job in terms of IQ. In terms of IQ, they're doing a terrific job. They're
What
giving
about
him
EI?
the best
What about
teachers.
EI?
Yeah, I'll just come to that. They're giving them the best teachers. They're giving them extra tutorials. They're giving them extra classes after schooling is done for the day, and then they give them a few years question papers, anything and everything. You name it. They have tie-ups with certain institutes. They're doing the best for IQ. But then, when schools can put in so much of efforts, school can put in so much of efforts in terms of teaching you math, science, geography, history, biology, physics, chemistry. You learn the equations, the formulas, everything is in there. Everything is in there. But the most important thing, to churn, when they churn out students from the school, they forget one thing. It's also important that we churn out good human beings. We churn out
That's the
good human
most
beings.
important thing. Most
That's the most
important thing.
important thing. What you can do in terms of IQ, even another institute can do. Even another institute can do that. That's all right. And you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. But the entire focus is only one thing: academics, academics, academics. It's all the time academics. I just want to ask you something very important, Reenaji. We are talking about something called EQ, which is nothing but life skills. So, what do you mean life skills? What is your perspective on life skills? Can you please tell me or give me your understanding on
See,
life skills?
I'll tell you what I believe is life skills are the most important thing in a person's life. Until and unless you excel in life skills, you cannot survive in this world. Because life skills are not it's not a subject, it's a daily routine, like if you're going out and you're caught up in a problem, it is your life skill that saves you out from that problem. It's your
Right,
life
right,
skill that brings you out from that trauma that you
right,
might end up in. And I
right,
personally believe that a student should be smart enough to handle any problem that is coming in life, be it
right,
anything, whether he's caught up in some very serious situation, or he
right,
is caught up in something which he feels helpless that I cannot come out of it.
right,
Whether he is caught up among friends who are just mocking at him, he has to build up that confidence in him that I am the best.
right,
Be it anybody in the world, anybody, the student, a child has to be very, very strong enough and has to know that I am the best and I can do it. I
Right.
am capable of doing what others are not doing.
Okay.
I am
So,
I am capable of the most unimaginable things to be done.
right. So, my question to you is, why are they called life skills? Why are they called life skills?
Because they help them in handling their life. They help them exactly like I mentioned earlier. They help them so well that it is through their life skill expertise, like not all kids are expert in handling their life easily. It is because
Just
their EQ, their emotional intelligence helps them come into this.
right. So, just
Because
what
if
I
they are
wanted to hear from you, you said the right word. You said life. So, tell me one thing. When we're saying life skills, when you're saying life skills, do you think one session of 1 hour, or do you think one session of 40 minutes or two sessions is going to help them? We're talking about life. We're talking about 60 years, 70 years, 80 years. So the
exactly,
schools want to have life skills, but they want to finish it in 1 hour or 2 hours. So
it's not
that's the biggest issue that we face with working in schools today, because it's very difficult for them to understand the concept that we are talking about life skills. We are talking about an entire life, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. How do you expect somebody to teach that in 1 hour or 40 minutes or 50 minutes or 2 hours? There has to be a series. There has to be a series of classes for them. They have to do it. The
exactly.
schools have to follow this religiously. So this is the only grouse we have in terms of IQ. They're doing exceptionally well. They're doing much better. But sadly, the focal point is IQ all the time. It's like how many ranks we got, how many state ranks, how many all India ranks, how many centums in maths, in physics. You see, the minute a school's board exam results are out, you will see a huge banner outside the school. So many centums in maths, so many centums in physics. All right, you're there to teach. Perfect. All right, that's good. You've done a great job. Congratulations for that. But please learn to balance it. You also need to learn to churn out good human beings from your school. It's
Right.
very important. No point in only focusing on this. Remember when you and me were in school, we had a lot of sessions of moral science. We didn't have
Yes.
so much academic pressure. It was not like this. Even if we got
We were taught in
60%.
a different way. We were taught in a very different way. There was no percentage rat race.
Right. So
That is
absolute
the
rat.
proper word.
It's more of a rat race out there. But you see, people who go out of school, I mean, who graduate later, they go on to good posts in life. I mean, they're well settled in life. But sadly, they're well settled in life financially, but they might not be well settled in life the way they really have to be in terms of being calm, composed, learning to be good with everyone, empathy. A lot of skills are missing even with senior people, not just children. And it's only because they were purely focusing on studies, academics all the time. So this is why schools need to have this. It's very important. And another thing that I would like to tell you is that schools when they focus on emotional intelligence, a lot of schools actually do not understand the meaning of emotional intelligence. They don't. They just put it in the category of what is called life skills. And for them, yoga is life skill. For them, meditation is life skill. What we talk about, empathy, resilience, all this is life skill. So they think if yoga and this can be done in 1 hour, even this can be done in 1 hour. It can't happen. It can't actually happen. So this is the biggest issue that is there in schools today, and we seriously feel and request schools that they start thinking differently. But one good thing came up for us very recently. Just last week, we connected. About 10 days ago, we connected with one school, and we got talking to the management, and we were able to convince the management, telling them, look, this is about life, and you can't do it in one session. So you give us a series of sessions, you see how it gets going. And I would love to name the school, not because I'm biased, because biased in any way, or because probably I'm going to get business from that school. No, it's simply because of the effort that school took, and the school believed in one thing. They said, "You are an expert on what you're doing. You decide." And that was
Wow,
the best thing they said.
that is really great.
You are an expert. You know how many days? It's like you go to a doctor and doctor telling you take medicines for 30 days, and you're saying, no, I think 1 week I'll be fine. Doctor's going to tell you, please find another doctor, don't come back to me. Right? So you leave the job of the experts to the experts always. That's a very, very important thing. Leave the job of the experts to the experts. That's a very, very important thing. So here exactly we told them, and this is the Sir Padampad Singhania Educational Center in Kanpur, and then we did 6 sessions with them. We did 6 sessions with them. They loved the sessions. The response was amazing. And can you believe it? We did these sessions for students of fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and they were asking for more and more and more. It's not, I'm not trying to tell you that we are very good. All I'm trying to tell you is these children are ready to learn. But the question is, are we ready to teach them? The question is,
Exactly.
are we ready to expose them to this? They were ready to learn. We got amazing responses from them. We got amazing response from the management. We got a fantastic response from the teachers as well, and it went on very well. And this is just the beginning. They've sounded it out that they do want these sessions to continue. So that's a great start. Our greatest joy is that finally someone has understood how this has got to be going. So that's
Exactly.
that's a
Because
great
right
joy.
now, what do you think after post pandemic? What would be the condition
Yes.
of schools and children, parents, teachers, everybody? I'm talking about individuals. Would
Uh,
they, because right now, as I have been observing and I've been talking to people, so like somewhere or the other, everybody is under so much stress that they don't have answers how to get out of it, and day by day, like seeing the news and the census of cases of covid positive coming up, like everybody is left in a lurch. They don't know what to do, how
right.
to go about it. Like everybody is so confused. Still people are confused. Will the kids be able to go to school ever?
Right.
Will the vaccine be available easily?
Right.
Like nobody knows what has to be done and how it has to be done.
Yes. There's a huge
Like
amount. You're right. No, please continue. Please continue. Sorry.
recently there was a news that quite possible after 15th of August we might think of opening the schools and all. But do you think the schools will open? Do you think if the schools even open, the parents will send their students? What will
Right.
happen of the teachers? What will happen of the teachers? Because it's becoming such a messy thing. Like some parents are not ready to pay the fees, some are ready to pay the fees, but teachers are continuing with the online education. I don't know what is going on. Like there is nobody who is supporting anything. Everybody is trying to go their own way. They are saying that okay, there are parents are saying we are not getting a salary for 2 3 months. The teachers are saying ma'am we are not getting the salary for 2 3 months. Like even teachers are parents. I think parents and teachers collectively should work on it and see to it that the parents are not burdened, the teachers are not burdened, the management is not burdened. What
Right.
is your take on this?
Yeah. So there are three things. I mean, if you ask me, I'll say there are three things. One is we are in a state of very high uncertainty. In a state of very high uncertainty, you don't really know what's going to happen. And the most important thing is, please remember this: things are not in our control. The pandemic is not in our control, right? First thing, the pandemic is not in our control, and there's huge amount of uncertainty. That's the first thing. The second thing we have to remember is that when things are not in our control, you can only do those things which are in your control. Now, what's in your control? One, accepting the reality. You need to accept the reality, whether you like it, you don't like it. You can be frustrated, you can bang your head on the wall, you can crash, you can shout, you can scream, you can want to go mad, and you can do things worse. But please understand, you need to accept the reality. And this is the reality. The reality is that the pandemic is not in our hands. We have absolutely no control to the pandemic. So please accept this. And the third important thing is that is why, to accept any new change, you need to be emotionally strong. Unless you're not emotionally strong, you cannot ever we cannot ever accept any change. So these are the three important things. You have to be emotionally strong. You have to work on your emotions, and this is the best time for you to work on your emotions, because, like I said, things are not in our control. But what is in our control is accepting it. Ki bhai, yahi hai situation. This is the situation. I cannot do anything about it. Today we might have 10,000 cases. Tomorrow it can fall down to 4,000 cases. Once upon a time we had 500 cases. Today it's gone to 10,000 cases. It's not in our control. It's just not in our control. So please do things that are in your control. Work on your emotional skills. Work on gaining more knowledge. Work on things that will work on your negative traits. Like if you're angry, try to work on your anger management. If you don't have sufficient knowledge, try to improve on your knowledge. You can improve on your reading skills, your writing skills. Do whatever you want to make you more proficient and much better in life. So this is very, very important. And for all this, again, Rinaji, like I said, for you to accept the situation, first thing, you have to be emotionally strong, stable, and very well balanced. That's the most important thing. Everything in our life, Rinaji, if you will accept, and you will agree with me, I'm sure, everything in our life revolves around emotions. There's happiness, there's sadness, whether it's success, whether it's failure, whether you stand up again after falling down or you don't stand up. Anything and everything revolves only around emotions in our life. So please learn to be emotionally competent, socially competent, learn how to talk, learn to do the right things in life. It's very, very important.
Right. A lot is being spoken about empathy these days. Right,
Yeah,
that children and adults, as well as less empathic people, also. Your
right,
life is all about. It's taken a
right,
complete U-turn, you can say.
right.
What is your
So
take on it?
yeah, so empathy is basically understanding how others feel. Now, first, I'd like to give a small difference on sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is, let's say, somebody is met with an accident and you hear of it and you say, okay, this guy had an accident, and you hear of it and say, oh my God, how sad. Yes, I feel sad for him. That's sympathy. Now, in empathy, if you hear that somebody's had an accident, you stand up. I mean, you try and go meet that person, and not just meet that person. You ask that person if he needs any help. You try and help him out and try and resolve things for him or stand by in support of him. This is empathy. Reaching out to someone, feeling how they feel actually, and then doing what you have to do for them. This is empathy, and this is the difference between sympathy and empathy. This is the first thing I like to say. Now, another important thing that I would like to tell you is that, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's been enough research done which has proved that animals are empathetic. Animals are empathetic. I'll give you a couple of instances. There's one instance where this one lady with less vision got lost in a forest. And then when a search party went out looking for her the next day, what they found is this lady is sitting in the middle, surrounded by tree branches and a lot of bushes. And there were few elephants there. The elephants had broken those branches and bushes, and they had made a cage around her to protect her from the hyenas there. Amazing empathy. And the second empathy that's actually been recorded is that when these humpback whales, they realized that certain dolphins were being chased by killer whales, they went down into the sea, picked up the dolphins on their back, and reached them out to safety. They reached them out to safety. Now, this has also been recorded. So when animals can practice empathy, and this has just been recorded recently, but this doesn't mean that they've not been following it. Animals have been following empathy for quite some time. So the take here is that if animals can follow and practice empathy, why not human beings? Why not
Exactly.
children? Why not students? Why can't we teach them empathy? We can, like I said, we can teach them maths, physics, science, chemistry, everything else. Why can't we teach them empathy? And I'll give you another interesting thing. I just want to ask you, at what age do you think empathy actually begins in children? What age do you think?
When since birth, I guess, another, like, since they start recognizing things. That,
Absolutely right. Actually, empathy begins in children since birth. Have you seen these 1 and 1.5 year old kids trying to embrace each other, trying to hug each other? That's
yes,
empathy. Now, if you see a 1 year old child, if there's a 1 year old child who's crying, and you see another 1 year old child sitting next to him, that 1 year old child would probably tell its mother or father to try and console that other 1 year old child. That's again empathy. Now, what
exactly.
happens is the same thing when, let's say, there's a 3 year old child and another 3 year old child, and one 3 year old child is crying. The other 3 year old child who's not crying will try to reach out to the child's mother or the father, the child who's crying, because by that time this child begins to understand that the child who's crying needs his mother or his father. So they try to
Exactly.
reach out. That's again empathy. And what happens is by the time these children become 6 and 7, they start they start entering into a stage called perspective. They start thinking. They start
Yeah.
thinking, okay, this child is crying. Why is this child crying? They start thinking. Perspectives begin to start coming in when the child is 6 and 7. But again, they do something to sort out that child's problems. So that is again empathy. So anything a child does, whether from age 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6, it's all empathy. And empathy is there right from the beginning. So when empathy is already there in our system. Why don't we help them to practice it? Why don't we teach them more lessons on empathy? Why don't we help them to experience more of empathy? You can teach empathy beautifully by getting the children to participate. Get the children to participate in certain activities, and by doing that, you can teach them empathy. So empathy is one of the foundations. It is one of the foundations of emotional intelligence. Empathy is very important. Until you don't really empathize, you will not really feel for someone. Till you don't really feel for someone, you will not really want to help out that person. And let me ask you, why do you think empathy is missing so much these days amongst children? Why is it?
Because, like, what I feel is they are getting more involved with phones, and lot of peer pressure, lot of school pressure, lot of pressure from parents. करो 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 करो, और उसमें वो लोग कुछ भी नहीं कर पाते.
You're right, actually. So let's say not just empathy, let's say emotions. Let's say emotions. Now, the problem these days is that children are spending more time with gadgets than with human beings. And to simplify it, gadgets don't have emotions, right? Gadgets don't have emotions. It's human beings. Now, let's say a child is also watching something wrong on a gadget, something that he or she shouldn't be watching. Do you think there's a hand going to come out from the gadget and probably slap the child, or do you think there's going to be a voice coming out from the gadget warning the child? No. So no
No.
emotions involved. But when you are talking to a child, whether you're shouting, whether you're beating the child, obviously a lot of parents do beat, and when we say that parents don't beat, we're lying. Parents do beat. That is on. So whatever it is all exchange of emotions. So unless the emotions are not stirred, these emotions in people will not actually wake up. There will be no emotions. Children spending more time with gadgets only means less of emotions and less of empathy. This is the reason why children of today, if you see, they are in a we world. You know what's a we world?
They don't
What's
know.
a we world? People
They
would
they
say,
have their own world. They have their
people
own
would
world.
people would call it virtual world, but we call it a world of vacuum. No, the 2 points of the V.
Yeah,
One side,
exactly. They have created their own world and they are busy in that.
so one side, either they are too sensitive, and on the other side, not bothered at all about anything. There's a huge vacuum in between. वो balance नहीं है. That balance is missing. It's just not
Exactly.
there, and that has to be there. That has to be there, and all this has to be taught. That is why social and emotional competencies are extremely important in life. This the great Aristotle, he once said, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And he was absolutely right, and he said this ages ago. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. He said this ages ago. So this has to be followed. Emotional and social competencies have to be worked on. This is what the children can do during the pandemic. This is what the parents can actually do during the pandemic.
How does one work on becoming emotionally intelligent?
Okay, how can one become emotionally intelligent? That's a very, very good question. Basically, five competencies. Before I begin, let me tell you about the people who invented or who came out with this term called emotional intelligence. It was in early 1990, I think. There were two people called John Salovey and Myers. They were the ones who came out with this concept that just like IQ, you can also have something called EQ. There are emotions inside of us, so we can try and work on those emotions to make them intelligent. So it was they who came out with this concept, and then in 1996, it was somebody else. It was somebody else who actually wrote a lot of books on it, and uh, spread out the awareness to the entire world in 1996, and that is when emotional intelligence actually started coming into the limelight.
Right, right, right.
So there are five key points. The first point is self awareness. The first key point is self awareness. Please try and understand yourself. That's the most important thing, right? You have to learn to understand yourself, and these 5 points are written by that person. 1996, I said, there's somebody who got deep down into emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is known as the father of emotional intelligence for the amount of work that he's actually done on emotional intelligence. First thing is know yourself. Know yourself, self awareness, very important. Understand yourself, your strong emotions, your weak emotions. Why do I behave the way I behave? What makes you cry easily? What makes you angry very easily? Talk to yourself, try and understand. Second thing, second thing is how you regulate your emotions or how you control your emotions. That's very, very, very important. Now you know what's right with you or what's wrong with you. So how do you regulate or control your emotions, or how you manage your emotions? That's again important. Now for that, you first have to sit and introspect about yourself. Why I get angry? Why do I cry? Okay, so if I have been behaving in this manner, this has been the result. Now let me change that. Let me try and change the way I behave. Let me try and change. So what can I do to manage my emotions? So that's the second point. Third important point is motivation. The third important point is motivation.
In
Very,
fact,
very,
that's the
very
most important point. That's the most important point.
important thing. There's somebody called Zig Ziglar. The Zig Ziglar, a marketing guru, or you could say somebody who's changed the thought process of millions of people worldwide. He once said that motivation is like taking a bath; it doesn't last. Motivation is like taking a bath; it doesn't last. So the point he was trying to make is that you need to learn to self motivate, because I always tell people you cannot have somebody coming out there and motivating you every single day of your life. You must learn to self motivate. Now the question asked is, how do I self motivate? What do I do to self motivate? Most important thing is, please do the things you like. Please do the things you like. For example, if you ask me how I motivate myself, I like to either talk to people or I like to go shopping. And even
That is
when
why
I
you
did,
are into training. That is why you are into training.
And even when I didn't have money in my pockets, I would just do window shopping, and looking at all those people in the malls would just make me happy, and it would it put me back on my feet again. So there are different ways in which people get motivated. You can listen to music. Some people just like to sleep it out to forget everything. Some people like to read a book. Some people like to have coffee discussions. Not in any negative activity. Indulge in positive activities that make you feel nice and put you back on your feet. What is motivation? It's basically a desire that pushes you towards achieving your goal. It's a very strong desire and it is beyond all external things. It is beyond money. It is beyond name. It is beyond fame. It's beyond everything else. What is
Exactly.
that one thing which can push you out of your bed every morning and say, okay, I need to go today? What's that one thing? That's your motivation. So the best thing to do is try and tie motivation to a goal. When you try motivation to a goal, it will automatically kick you out of your bed every morning. That's the best
Exactly.
thing. You will not stop till you have not achieved your goal. And you will stay motivated, and you will stay focused as well to achieve what you have to achieve in life. So the third important thing is motivation. Fourth, we've already discussed a lot about it, empathy. Fourth is empathy. Empathy and motivation are like two very strong pillars on which EI stands. Empathy and motivation, two very strong pillars on which EI stands. So the fourth is empathy, and the fifth is social skills. Social skills are very important. See, we are all human beings. We live in a society. Man is a social animal, right? So once you're in a society, you must know how to behave with people, how to talk with them, how to move around with them, how to answer them, how to remain calm, how to remain composed, and how to work along with them. So social skills are equally very important in life. So these are the five key things. These are the five key things: self awareness, self regulation or learning to control or regulate your emotions, motivation, empathy, and last but not the least, your social skills. These five things put together, you can learn how to become emotionally intelligent.
Okay.
Yes, Rina.
What role does teachers play in developing EI in students?
Role of teachers is very important. uh, I would start by saying that it can all become with it can all begin with the way teachers behave with children.
Okay.
The way teachers behave with children, I think that is the starting point for teachers. The way you behave, the way you answer children, the way you talk to them, the way you motivate them, the way you're willing to guide them, the way you're willing to mentor them. I think this is the key. This is the key, if you ask me. Let me tell you in very simple terms. A teacher in a school, and I've done this a million times, and I've said this a million times, and I'll tell it again. God has given teachers the power to make a child's life or break a child's life. A teacher can do that. A teacher can absolutely do that. I'll tell you one instance when I was in school. I'll tell you one instance when I was in school. I had a class teacher by the name Rajeshwari Chandrasekharan. Sadly, she's no more. She passed away a few years ago due to cancer. And she was a 10th standard class teacher. She had just come in fresh, and it was about 2 months. It was 2 months into school, and it was the first period after lunch, definitely the most difficult period to stay awake. But I loved English, so I was awake, and I was chewing on some gum. I was chewing on some gum. She said, Manish, stand up. I stood up. She said, can you please go and spit that out? And my answer was, I can't. With all my arrogance, I said, no, I can't. And she just stared at me, and I realized, I said, okay, I better go and throw that out. If not, tomorrow I'll have my father here in the principal's office. So I went, I dumped that chewing gum, and I came back. The next day when I was in school, and just 10 minutes before the prayer bell, there's another small boy who came running into my class and said, who's Manish Gupta? The 10, 15 of us sitting and talking. And I said, it's me. Said Rajeshwari Miss wants you in the staff room. And I started getting palpitations. I was very nervous. I said, Gaya, aaj ka din gaya. I'm sure she's going to take me to the principal's room. I'm sure I'm going to stand in front of everyone in the assembly and I'm going to be penalized. So I went and I stood outside the staff room and I was standing quietly there. She was writing something in a book, and she looked up and she said, "Come in." She did this. She said, "Come in." And I made with a very sad face, I walked up to her. She didn't say anything. She stood up. She opened her purse. She took out 4 pieces of bubble gum, gave it to me in my hand, and said, "This is for you, but not in class, after class." And can you believe it? That day, that minute was the end of my arrogance in my life. I was never ever arrogant after that. I was a changed person. This is what teachers can do. This is exactly what can do, and I've never ever forgotten this incident. And every time we have a teachers workshop, I make sure this story is told because it's a true story, and I have experienced it personally. Wonderful story, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I thought she's going to punish me, but look at what she did. Unbelievable. This is what teachers can do. Teachers can absolutely make your life just by their love, their affection, just by letting you know that they care for you. And most importantly, by not saying words that can hurt you and that can leave a scar in you. Teachers not to do that.
So, in a way, you are advocating reinforcers.
Right. Pardon me?
You are advocating reinforcers. To get a child on track, we as parents and teachers need to be ready with reinforcers so that they do not just run away.
Absolutely right. You need to listen.
Like
In fact,
we need to refrain ourselves from using all sarcastic, rude, and very, very bad remarks that we generally give.
right. Absolutely right. You're right. So the words that you say are very, very important. The words that you say, because children can take them very seriously. Now, if you're motivating them, they will take it in a different manner and you can see them rising to the top. If you're using the wrong kind of words for them, you can see them getting down into depression. Probably even their academic competencies will come down. They start getting into a shell. And like I've always said, we wish to maintain one thing very strongly. In a class, if there are 10 children who are not following a particular subject, I would say there are two reasons. There are two reasons for any child to not follow any particular subject. One, either the child has not understood the subject properly, and if that's the case, it's not a problem, it can be taught. Second thing, the child doesn't like the teacher. And now, if that is the case, it's impossible for you to teach the child. That's not going to happen. So, if the child has not understood your subject, you can be happy, rest assured, you can still teach him or her what he or she doesn't know or not understood. But the minute the child starts disliking the teacher, that particular year, he or she is not going to learn from you. You can take it in writing. You can take it for granted. So that's why I said the way you behave in class, the way a teacher behaves in class is very, 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 very important for these children. Using the right words, being friendly, make sure that you don't shout at any child in a negative manner in front of the other children. And and one very, very important thing, whenever a child has to tell you something, please listen. You never know what a child wants to tell you. Allow the child to reach out to you. Be accessible. So this is how
What
a teacher can actually help.
what would you
Yes.
say to those teachers who do a lot for the kids, but the kids, some way or the other, just try to ignore what they are saying? Or for a group of those students like you earlier mentioned, that in a class of 30 or whatever it is, 10 or 12 students are not at all ready to take the things, it is because the teacher is wrong. But it can be vice versa. At times the students are wrong, and at times the teachers are wrong. What would you say for that? Because what happens is, at times there have been teachers, who are serial insulters. That's what I would say, who love insulting students. There are. It's not. I'm not against the teacher fraternity, but yes, this does happen. It is a fact, a bitter fact, because at times the teachers are not ready to control energies in a child, the child is overactive, the child is like, he is in fact not overactive, he's hyperactive, right? And what should the teachers do to control such children and channelize their energies?
First thing, I think the most important thing when we see a hyperactive child in the class is the child is hyperactive only because the child doesn't know what to do and he doesn't know how to channelize the energies. So the most important thing that we would advise any class teacher, and as we have been advising, is try to give the child some responsibilities. Try to make the child responsible. Try to make the child feel important enough, and then you see how that hyperactive child's energies are channelized. The child will actually, you will start seeing a transformation in the child will start becoming more responsible. That's because you made him feel important, him or her feel important. This is the best way. Give the child some responsibilities. You could give anything. You could say, okay, today you are in charge of setting the benches right. Today you are in charge of carrying all the notebooks back to the staff room. Today you are in charge of noting down the names of those children who are repeatedly talking in class. You could do anything, but give some responsibility to the child to make the child busy. And you see the hyperactivity that we are talking about will gradually reduce. That's a very important thing. Second thing that you mentioned about some teachers being serial insulters, I would not really like to comment on that, because see, every person is different. Every person is different. Every teacher has his or her own way of teaching children, and some teachers are comfortable with whatever you said. It can be so. It can be so. But I believe now times have changed. We worked with so many schools, and now we realize that even these teachers who probably lose control very easily in class are changing. They are evolving to become better teachers. Things are changing. But yes, if somebody is very short tempered, you can't help it. Kabhi kabhi ho jata hai. They are not able to control it. They say anything and everything. That's why I told you 10 minutes ago, teachers can make children's lives or they can break children's lives. You know, a few words said repeatedly to the child, and the child starts thinking, okay, probably I'm like this only. तुम कुछ काम के नहीं हो, तुमसे कुछ नहीं होता है, you are useless. Now if you keep using these words consistently, the child begins to assume that he or she is useless, and whatever little academic interest is there, even that will go away. That's exactly what happens.
So, in a way, we can say that, like I yesterday mentioned, parents and teachers and the school, everybody needs to walk hand in hand.
Right.
If we
So
want the kids to be emotionally strong, we want them,
absolutely right.
we
So
want them to stay
there's
well.
one strong message for parents, and thank you for bringing this up. I almost forgot about it. Thanks once again. For parents, is a very strong message. Children will copy whatever you do. Parents, please don't forget this. Whatever you do, the way you talk, the way you walk, the words you use, the language, the way you dress, the way you eat your food, anything and everything, children will copy. So, children's emotional competencies training actually begins from home. The parent is the first teacher. The parent is the first teacher. Do not forget that. So it's left to you to decide कि आपको क्या सिखाना है. You want to teach the good, or you want to teach those things which are not good. It's left to you. A child will only see, observe, and do things that you do. For example, in some cases, I'll tell you, and I don't mind saying this on record, we have had students of 13 and 14 years picking up the habit of smoking. And in a particular school, when this happened, he said, of course, my father smokes every day. So I also decided to do it. So what happens is when the parents do something which might not be right, the children think that it is legal because my father can do it, even I can do it. That's how it is, because the father and mother only says this is not right, this is right. So the person who's telling me this is not right and this is right, he himself is smoking, which means he must be right, so it must be legal, so even I can do it. This is what happens. So you are introducing the child into a false sense of legality. That's exactly what you're doing. So don't do that. Please, and 10 years, 12 years down the line, when the child grows up and you're not able to control the child, and that day you get angry and say, how dare you talk to me like this? Of course he will do it. It's you who taught him to do it. It's you who taught him to do it, right? So parents need to understand this begins from home, and the golden period or the golden age to put in values, character, moral values into a child is 0 to 7 years. 0 to 7 years is known as the golden period in a child's life to get in all the values and the mannerisms and the character building. This is the most crucial age.
So, like, in a way, it is that anyhow, be it anything, all of us as parents, teachers, we need to see where the child is going wrong. If
Right,
a parent, like my personal view is, if a parent sees something wrong in the child, in his behavior at home, we can definitely go and discuss it with the teachers.
right,
And as a teacher, I would say that parents should cooperate with us
right.
because
Absolutely right.
until and unless we work together, we cannot bring a change in the child. If we
Right.
say, like at times things have happened, like a parent has gone to school, and this is what my case studies also say. A parent has gone to school, and the teacher has been just blaming the child, right? The parent was called because the child did something wrong, right? When the parent went there, he or she found out that there was something that happened in the school that the child reacted that way.
Hmm.
How can the parent be blamed for that? That means the transparency between parents and teacher was missing.
Right.
So what I uh, took from your talk was that parents and teachers need to be transparent about the child's behavior. You
Okay.
correctly
So
said that everything starts from home because the
yeah,
parents are the first people.
what you're saying is absolutely right, and my take is the same as yours. They need to work hand in hand, but the most important thing to be noted here is whether it's a parent or the child or the parent. I mean, whether it's a parent or the teacher and the parent and teacher together trying to reform the child. It's again very important how you handle it, what you say,
Exactly.
what is your manner, what is your
Words
tone,
matter the most. Words
and
matter the most.
what can you say in such a manner that the child starts believing in you and then realizes ठीक है ये मुझे डांटने नहीं वाले, he's not going to shout at me, not going to scream at me, only telling me something for my good. Now if you are able to bring in this element, I don't at all think it's difficult to reform any child. It's not impossible. Now, before we actually end, I think we have 5 minutes left, ma'am, on this program.
We can continue for another 2 3 minutes. We can continue
Okay,
for 5.
I have a very strong message, especially because it's pandemic time. We see people breaking down, we see people biting the dust, we see people doing all sort of things. So I would like to tell a short story on motivation because that's the way I end all programs, and I'm taking this liberty with you that I want to reach out a small motivational story to everyone out there. So, with your permission, can I do that? I'll just take 5 minutes,
Please go
right?
ahead. Please, please.
Yeah, so we have a lot of motivation stories, and in particular, we've selected this story because this is a story of one person. I think the kind of fighting spirit that this person has shown and the resilience that this person has shown is unbelievable. Now, this is a story which I've already told on 2 programs in the last 5 days, but let me tell you this. This is a story about the Brooklyn Bridge in the US of A, in United States of America, the Brooklyn Bridge and how it got constructed. Now, it is very difficult for people to travel from Manhattan to the other side. There was a river in between, and it was a great struggle. Now, there's one particular person called John Roebling, he was a German guy but living in the USA. He kept writing to the governor of USA, look, allow me to construct a bridge. People are finding it very difficult to move from here and there, and the only way is through boats and ferries. After 15 years of writing letters, finally he got the permission. Now, when work began, and he was on a boat surveying from where to start the work, the boat went and crashed into an iron pillar. When it crashed into an iron pillar, he damaged the toe of one of his feet very badly. It almost got cut into two, and then he didn't really bother to go to a doctor. He did the dressing at home, saying, "I have a lot of work. I have a lot of work." Finally, that got infected, and on the 28th day after the accident, he died. John Roebling died. Now, there was his son, Washington Roebling, who said, "I'm the only person who knows how to construct the bridge. Even I'm an engineer." And he began constructing the bridge. A few months went by, and after they were constructing, because Washington Roebling had to go down, he had to go down below the river again and again, and they had to go in decompressed chambers. Now, because of that time there was a disease going on called the Benz disease or the decompression disease. Because of this disease, what happened? He had developed very high fever, and soon his entire body started getting paralyzed. He was in hospital, his entire body was paralyzed, only his mind was working, and only one finger was working. He was able to move just one finger. And he didn't know what to do. His mind was sticking away that I need to construct the bridge somehow. And what he did, he started tapping on his wife's arm. And it took his wife 3 months to understand what my husband is saying. After 3 months, the wife said, he's saying, "Take me home." So they developed a code. She took him home. And after they went home, he sent out a message to his wife by tapping on her arm saying that, "Please call in the engineers. I want to construct the bridge." So every day the engineers would come. He would tap on her arm, the one finger. She would give out messages. And after 13 years lying in bed, tapping only that one finger, the bridge got constructed. This is how the bridge got constructed. And when the bridge was about to open, he sent a very emotional message to the governor of New York saying, "Please allow my wife, Emily Washington, to be the first person to cross the bridge, as she has actually done a lot of work for it." And then his wife was allowed. She was the first person. It was a very emotional moment. She was the first person on a stagecoach to actually cross the bridge. And then this is how, imagine one man lying on the bed, entire body paralyzed, one finger moving, he got the bridge constructed. So what I have the message out for people out there is, don't paralyze your mind. The minute you paralyze your mind, everything is paralyzed. Our hands are good, our legs are good, our entire body is working. But if you allow your mind to paralyze, you will break down and everything will be over for you. Don't allow your mind to paralyze. Stay strong. Remember the story, and then do whatever you have to move ahead in life. So with this story, I'd like to end today's session, and thank you for having given me this opportunity to reach out this story, though it was done in a little bit of hurry. But I think it is very, very, very important for people to know, when one man lying on a bed for 13 years can tap one finger and get a bridge constructed, there's nothing that you cannot do in life.
Exactly. That's really
Right.
great. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Absolute pleasure, ma'am. And once again, thank you so much for the invite.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, ma'am.
So this was a session with Mr. Manish Gupta. In fact, he has put in lot of efforts in uh, conceptualizing Buddhi world, and he has been really working very hard to sensitize parents, teachers, and even students on what and how things should be. So here we end our today's session. Tomorrow we have Mrs. Gauri Singh. She will be talking on the topic, the new educational trends to look for it in the new normal. She is an author, trainer, educational auditor, and teacher. She is from Indore, Madhya Pradesh. See you tomorrow. Time and all I'll be telling you. It's around 11 o'clock. We will start tomorrow, and let's see how long the session goes on. See you guys tomorrow. Bye bye. Take care.